When Margarita, the campus belle who once bullied my boyfriend, got married. My boyfriend jumped into the sea and committed suicide. While sorting through his belongings, I found a hidden folder on his computer. It was filled with her photos, covered in words of longing and love. He had even written her a song, "Every Day Without You." I toss and turn, unable to sleep. So when I was reborn, and Margarita once again rallied the entire class to isolate him, I looked away. This time, I didn't stand up for him. He stopped me, his voice trembling with despair. Why aren't you helping me this time? Chapter 1. The genius singer-songwriter Sean released a new song titled Flora. The lyrics were far too telling, and during interviews, everyone asked if the song was inspired by someone he loved. His lips curved slightly, his cool gaze meeting the camera. Yes, I wish her happiness, a reporter who loved to stir the pot quietly asked. By wishing her happiness, do you mean you're marrying Violet? I am Violet. From high school until now, from a dim, damp basement to a glittering mansion of gold and marble, we had walked through more than 10 years together. It wasn't a secret in our circle. In the video, when Sean heard my name, he merely froze for a second. He didn't answer the reporter's question. He simply said the interview was over and left under the escort of his staff. Watching that unfinished interview, I recalled something I once read. If two people have been together for many years and still haven't gotten married, it probably means they never will. I never expected it to be true for Sean and me, because he jumped into the sea and took his own life. On the large coastal rock, they found an old phone. The screen was open to his chat with Margarita. The message unsent. I love you. Chapter 2. Sean was an orphan. After he passed away, there was no one but me to handle everything. Perhaps he had long foreseen this day, because he had already written his will and arranged everything with painful precision. He said he loved children, so he donated all his savings to an orphanage. He said he had no home, so he left his properties to the state. He said there were feelings in his life he could never confess, but now that he was dying, he could finally be brave once. He even remembered a girl from the company, someone who had only met him a few times, who once brought him fruit. He noted down her kindness. Yet for me, he didn't leave a single word, as if the years I had spent by his side were so insignificant, so utterly irrelevant, like a marionette without flesh or will. I mechanically took care of all his funeral affairs, until one day, I found an old laptop in the bookshelf, and inside a folder I opened by accident was a collection of photos, all of the same girl, our high school's queen bee, Margarita. He had named the folder Little Daisy. The daisy's flower language means love hidden deep in one's heart. With a sense of dread, I counted them. There were 520 photos in total. Since graduation, they hadn't even seen each other once. Opening the image viewer, I noticed some photos still had social media watermarks. The earliest one was from our freshman orientation night, a curtain call photo of Margarita on stage. The latest was her wedding photo. In that moment, I understood who Sean's new song Flora was written for. There was a lyric that went, "Every day without you." I toss and turn, unable to sleep. That was his way of confessing to the world, his way of saying I love her, and I finally understood what he meant by I wish her happiness. My heart clenched painfully, as if someone were squeezing it in their hand, each pulse sharper than the last. At the end of the photos, there was a document. It recorded his secret love for Margarita. Starting from our first year of high school. How ironic. Margarita had bullied him from the very first day of school, mocked him as a country bumpkin, cornered him in the restroom and poured cold water over his head, sent people to beat him after class in dark alleys, cut up his clothes, forced him to do her homework, and made him run errands to buy her snacks. And I had been the one who couldn't stand watching anymore. The one who kept saving him, helping him return to a normal life. Yet he never mentioned any of that. All he wrote about was that rainy day, when Margarita handed him an umbrella. He said at that moment, the world stopped, and in all the noise of the earth, only her beautiful silhouette remained. That single image became his lifelong obsession. Even his dream of becoming a singer had started because of her. Once, when she was mocking him, she found the lyrics he had hidden in his notebook. in front of the entire class. She read them aloud, those words that, to us back then, were both shameful and sentimental. Then she sneered and told him, "Not everyone can be a star, some people just aren't meant for it." But instead of feeling humiliated, he only wanted to climb to the highest stage. Just to be seen by her again, my eyes burned. So all these years, I was nothing but a joke, not even worthy of a name in his story. With trembling hands, I read the last line Sean had written, "If there's a next life, I'll be brave, just once." Tears blurred my vision. If there's a next life, I thought, I'll never again step between you two. Go chase your so-called true love. Chapter 3. When I opened my eyes again, Sean was on the podium, introducing himself. When the teacher said he'd be sitting next to me, I froze for only a moment before quickly raising my hand. "Teacher, I don't want to." Yes, I had returned to my first year of high school, the very year when Sean secretly fell for, and was bullied by, the so-called queen bee of the class, Margarita. This time, I would not help him. Sean clearly didn't expect me to say that. His face flushed red. In that instant, embarrassment and hurt flickered across his expression. Our homeroom teacher, confused by my reaction, paused before asking, "Why?" Because I wanted no entanglement with Sean. Not now. Not ever again, not with this ungrateful man who had once betrayed me. "I can read faces," I said solemnly, spouting nonsense without the slightest hesitation. "He brings me bad luck." The teacher was startled, scolded me for my superstitious nonsense, but still ended up seating him next to Margarita instead. As Sean walked over, I saw Margarita roll her eyes dramatically, dragging her chair a few inches away. She muttered just loud enough for everyone to hear, "Country bumpkin." At that time, Sean was still living in an orphanage, but he worked part-time after school to support himself. He was thin and underdeveloped compared to other boys his age. His clothes faded and patched, clearly worn for years. In my previous life, Sean had been my desk mate, and Margarita had sat right in front of us. Whenever she mocked him for being poor, I would kick her chair and tell her to watch her mouth, because I knew, once bullying starts, if no one stands up, it only gets worse. I hadn't liked Sean back then. I just couldn't stand seeing someone bullied. But this time, when I saw Margarita's sneer and that familiar cruelty, I said nothing. Still, I noticed Sean's back go rigid, almost as if he wanted to turn around to see if I would speak up again. I didn't. I lowered my head and continued reading my book. Chapter 4. After being reborn, I only felt lost for a few days before I fully adjusted to this life. Honestly, as an adult, I had often regretted failing my college entrance exam and missing out on my dream school. So this time, it felt like a gift from heaven, a second chance I would not waste. As for Sean and Margarita, whatever happens between them has nothing to do with me. To fall in love with the person who once bullied you, and to remain obsessed for years afterward. What kind of masochistic fool does that? Not someone worth saving. So when I saw Margarita and her clique cornering Sean near the girls' restroom after class, I simply washed my hands, and didn't even glance their way. "Do you know how disgusting you are? You smell awful. Sean, do you have body odor or something? Does your little orphanage not have showers? Don't worry, I'll help you wash properly." Filthy, cruel words spilled from Margarita's mouth. In my previous life, I couldn't understand how such a beautiful girl could be so vile. Back then, when I saw them blocking Sean, I had rushed forward without thinking, shielding him with my body, trading insults with Margarita until she finally stormed off, and the bucket of cold water meant for him never touched him that day. I even told him afterward that when faced with bullies, he needed to learn to fight back, because no one could save him forever. He thanked me, but I hadn't noticed that his gaze had followed Margarita's retreating back. Now, thinking about it, why had I even bothered? Maybe deep down, he had enjoyed her attention all along. So this time, I walked straight past. Halfway down the hall, I heard the splash. The water had been dumped on him after all. I didn't stop. I pretended I hadn't seen a thing. And just as I was about to turn the corner, I heard his voice, hoarse, desperate, calling out behind me, "Violet." Chapter 5. Bad luck. I quickened my pace, running as fast as I could. In my panic, I didn't see the person coming from the opposite direction and crashed straight into a boy, knocking him over. Damn it! The boy on the ground squinted, rubbing his forehead, his expression sharp and dangerous, afraid Sean might catch up and see me. I mumbled an apology and bolted, without my help this time. Sean's life at school was pure misery. At this age, teenagers are already fragile and insecure, and Sean, with his stubborn pride, endured the endless torment in silence. Margarita seemed to enjoy crushing him under her heel. She was always inventing new ways to humiliate him. Lately, though, she had toned it down a little, because she was preparing for the school's orientation performance. Sean's first photo of her in that secret folder was from this event, the moment she won her award. I had no interest in such things, so I didn't attend this time either. I assumed Sean, ever the devoted fool, would never miss a chance to see his goddess. But to my surprise, he didn't go either. When I spotted him in the empty classroom afterward, I froze. Then, quietly, I started packing my bag to leave. Violet. He turned toward me after I tucked in the last book. His brows furrowed as though suppressing something fierce inside him, a desperate need to prove something. In my past life, through all those years together, Sean had rarely shown emotion. Even in moments of intimacy, he was always distant, cold. The only time he truly lost composure was when he confessed to me at our high school graduation. I still remembered that look in his eyes, sincere, burning, trembling with a fragile kind of courage. That "will you be with me?" sounded like it had taken everything he had. He stared at me, fists clenched around the hem of his shirt, eyes full of love and fear, as if terrified I'd reject him. But now, seeing that same face, the same expression replayed in this lifetime, all I felt was disgust. Perhaps, back then, he wasn't really looking at me at all, just at the reflection of someone else through me. So I met his hopeful eyes with a flat, indifferent glance, and walked away without a word. Chapter 6. Sean got cornered by Margarita again. This time, it was in a narrow alley outside the school, the same path I always took to go home. Maybe it was just my imagination, but for a split second, I thought I saw a faint light in his eyes, a flicker of expectation. Was he waiting for me to save him again, like last time? Of course not. I only gave a casual glance before looking away. Margarita's obsession with tormenting Sean seemed almost pathological. "Hey, country bumpkin, what's that in your hand?" she sneered, eyes glinting. "Are you some kind of pervert? I swear I saw something that belongs to a girl." Sean gritted his teeth, staying silent, unhappy with his silence. Margarita reached out to grab it. "What the hell? Did you steal something from me?" But to everyone's shock, Sean reacted violently this time. He shoved her away and turned toward me. "It's not yours," he said darkly. "If you break it, I'll fight you to the death." His voice was low, fierce. I stared straight ahead, refusing to meet his eyes, and marched forward, firm, unflinching, as if I were heading to a solemn mission. And just like that, the faint light in Sean's eyes slowly dimmed into darkness under my cold indifference. Then came the dull, heavy sound of fists striking flesh, followed by his muffled grunts of pain. I still didn't turn around, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw him clutching something tightly in his hand, refusing to let go. Chapter 7. I had just walked out of that alley when, in the next one over, I ran into someone else. He was sitting against the wall, face covered in bruises, his clothes and pants streaked with blood. Looked like he'd just been in a fight too. TSK. This road really was unlucky. I'd better take another route next time. I was about to leave when the man spoke. "Hey, you're just gonna walk by and not help?" I froze where I was. After reading enough novels, I'd learned one thing: never pick up strange men off the street, especially the handsome ones. Besides, in my last life, I had saved Sean countless times, and he hadn't remembered a single act of kindness. Why should I bother again? So I pretended not to hear him. Just as I lifted my foot to go, he tilted his head and shot me a sidelong glance. "Seriously? You're not gonna help?" Annoying type, I thought. He gave a low chuckle. Can't even give a hand to someone who's hurt? You knocked me over last time. My ass still hurts from that. I fished out my phone. Then I'll call you an ambulance. He raised an eyebrow. Wow, you're something else. Thanks. Seeing as you can still talk. I'm guessing you're not dying. I'm serious. I can't move. Just help me up. We're from the same school. You think I'm gonna scam you or something? When I still didn't move, he seemed to laugh in disbelief. You're that wary? I don't even know if you're a good guy. I replied. What if you've got a knife and stab me when you're in a bad mood? He snorted. Your imagination's impressive. Then he pulled out a student ID and tossed it toward me. Grade 1. Class 3, Elias. I bent down and picked it up. Yep. Same school. So, I help you up. And then what? Beauty. Give me a second, my leg's practically broken. Only then did I notice the steady trickle of blood seeping from his leg. Still, I hesitated. Sean had left me with more than a few trust issues. What are you waiting for? I'm seriously about to pass out here. I sighed, walked over, and put his arm around my shoulder. Which leg's broken? Right one. Okay, I'll hold you up. Use your left leg to balance. I underestimated Elias's weight. I couldn't lift him at all. Stubbornly, I put all my strength into it, and from above came his gritted teeth and dry voice. Great, my leg was broken before. Now you've broken my arm too. Aw, my mistake. After a lot of struggling, I finally managed to half carry him to the mouth of the alley. That's when I saw Sean, his face covered in bruises. 2. Chapter 8. His gaze stayed fixed on me for a long time, then shifted to Elias, whose entire weight was leaning against my shoulder. I could almost see the tension in Sean's face crumble, bit by bit. It reminded me of before, when I'd seen Margarita cornering him and shouted fire. To draw a crowd and save him, when I had been the one to hold him up. To ask if he was okay. To take him to the hospital and stay with him all night. Back then, it wasn't because I liked him. I was just a decent person, but reality had taught me a harsh truth. Good people don't get remembered. Good people don't even get a thank you. So this time, I had withdrawn all my kindness. Violet. Sean's voice was hoarse, trembling slightly. You helped him. I looked at him calmly, frowning faintly, but he stepped closer, his thin body trembling. And, under my confused gaze, he held out his hand. In his palm lay a strawberry-shaped hair clip. Mine. The same one he had been clutching so tightly. The one he had protected, even while being beaten, like a drowning man clutching a single straw. He looked at me, eyes filled with despair and pleading. His voice was low, almost swallowed by the night air. Why didn't you help me this time? Chapter 9. For a brief moment, I wondered if I was seeing things. How could Sean have that kind of expression? He had always been gloomy, quiet, indifferent, never one to show much emotion. He was the kind of person whose lips rarely curved into a smile. And he had loved Margarita. This was already the third time he had called my name since I was reborn. And yet, in my last life, when he took his own life, he didn't leave me a single word. That was just who he was, cold, detached. To him, I was probably just another passerby in his story. So when I lifted my eyes to look at him, my tone was as cold as my stare. Do we even know each other? That was the same question he had asked me once, the first time I ever helped him. Back then, I thought he was embarrassed, ashamed to be seen so beaten and humiliated. So I had told him, we're desk mates. I want to protect you. But now, looking back, perhaps he had never cared for my so-called kindness. In the sleepless nights after my rebirth, I often asked myself, was I wrong to help him back then? Now, I hadn't helped him. I had helped someone else. I didn't know what he was thinking, but I recalled something I once read. I want you to watch, clearly, as I give up on you again and again, while saving someone else instead. I want you to light up with hope, only to fall into despair, over and over again, until the darkness swallows you whole. So let him think whatever he wants. The worse he imagines, the better. We're. Sean's voice trembled, his chest heaving, face pale. He looked as though he wanted to accuse me. After all, even if we weren't close, we were still classmates. He probably thought I shouldn't have just walked away. But before he could finish, the boy leaning against me, Elias, snapped impatiently. What's with this pity act? You've still got your arms and legs, don't you? Stop playing the victim, Violet. If we don't go now, I'm going to collapse. TSK, fierce, even half-injured. Elias still spoke with that cocky, overconfident tone. Sean froze at his words. His lips trembled, and his eyes reddened slightly as he looked at me. I wanted nothing more than to get away from this mess. So I said calmly, let's go. I'll take you to the hospital. Sean's frail figure swayed, as if the slightest breeze might blow him away, and the way he looked at Elias was cold enough to pierce bone. Chapter 10. That guy was looking at you in a really weird way, Elias said suddenly after we got into the taxi. You'd better stay away from him. He leaned back lazily, adding, unlike me, good character, happy family, pure soul. No hidden motives, no tricks. Huh? I turned to look at his bold, smug face, and couldn't help saying, right, that's why you got into a fight and ended up half dead? Elias immediately puffed up like a proud peacock, patting his chest. Excuse me? I took on a whole group by myself. They're way worse off than I am, okay? This is just a little bleeding, no big deal. So you're only a little hurt. Guess that means we don't need to go to the hospital? He blinked, lips tightening, then suddenly slumped weakly against the window. No. I'm dying. Low blood sugar. Gonna pass out any second now. My silence was deafening, but I still reached into my bag and handed him a chocolate. He brightened immediately, taking a huge bite, his ears turning a deep shade of red. When I left the hospital later, Elias tugged on my sleeve insistently, refusing to let me go without giving him my contact info. You're my savior. Let me buy you dinner once I'm out. I'm in class 3. Name's Elias, don't forget it. Next semester I'm transferring to your class. I'm great at physics. By the way, I blinked, momentarily stunned. Elias. That name, I remembered seeing it once before, in my last life, in a news article about research on parallel universes. He was the author of the published paper. It had barely made the news though, overshadowed by the headlines about Sean's suicide. The internet had gone wild. Even Margarita got dragged into it. When people saw how beautiful she was, they began writing love stories for the two of them, romantic fantasies about a tragic love that transcended life and death. They called Sean a man of deep devotion, saying he had proved his love through death itself. And me? I became the villainess in their story, the toxic woman who ruined their perfect romance. I tried explaining, over and over, but no one wanted to listen. He was dead, and the dead can't defend the living. So the insults poured into my private messages. Thousands of them. They said I had driven Sean to suicide, that I did it to inherit his company and wealth. As if everyone had forgotten, his will left me nothing, not a single word. He really was selfish. Chapter 11. When I reached the hospital entrance, Elias called out to me again, Violet, you're only in your first year of high school. There's still plenty of time, plenty of chances. I turned around. He arched an eyebrow, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. So, live this life however you want. I froze, unsure what to say. Then he smiled, bright, wide, and completely unguarded. I believe you can. I had to admit, his smile was infectious. It carried a kind of warmth, genuine, fierce, and full of light. So unlike Sean. If Sean was someone who lived in the shadows, then Elias was the kind of person who was sunlight. When I walked back toward the ward, I saw Sean again. I didn't even know when he had followed me here. His gaze was sharp and brooding, dark with something close to hostility, but underneath it was a fragile trace of hope. I came to return this, he said softly. He held out his hand. In his palm lay my strawberry hair clip, the same one I had dropped, the one he had picked up and protected so fiercely. It was broken now, beyond repair, just like whatever had existed between us. The hospital doors opened and closed with the rush of people passing by. But I stood still, Ever since that moment in the alley, when he said those words to me, I'd had a suspicion. Maybe Sean had been reborn too. I couldn't be sure. But I was curious. Curious why he was looking at me with such turbulence in his eyes. After thinking about it, I came to a conclusion. Sean was sick. Anyone who could fall in love with the person who bullied them, that was Stockholm Syndrome. And now, him coming after me, that was just another illness. Maybe something like the disease of wanting what he can't have. Under his expectant gaze, I didn't reach for the clip. I simply said, coolly, Sean, we're just classmates. You're overstepping. He froze, pale lips trembling. After a long moment, his voice came out hoarse and shaking. You're throwing it away? For a second, I remembered the past, back before anyone recognized his musical talent. I had worked tutoring jobs, part-time shifts, using my own living expenses to support his dream, to help him enter competitions, and when he'd been crushed by failure after failure, when everyone said he would never make it. The day he saw me packing my suitcase, he had broken down, grabbing my hand, his voice trembling in raw, "You're leaving me?" So fragile, like one wrong word could shatter him. And I had hugged him then, saying softly, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm just going away for work. I'll show you the beauty of the world. I'll help you walk out of the dark and into the light." But this time, facing the same desperate eyes, I said calmly, "It's just a broken thing. If it's lost, it's lost." Sean swayed, as if the ground beneath him had vanished, as if something vital had been torn away. As I brushed past him, I added, "Stop bothering me." Chapter 12. The days of studying passed quickly. Even while Elias was still in the hospital, he somehow had endless free time to message me. I rarely replied, unless I couldn't help it. Like today, he just sent me a message. "My legs all healed, thanks." Then came a photo, one that clearly showed the outline of his abs. I couldn't resist replying, "Your legs healed. Why send me a photo of your upper body?" He didn't respond for a while, then sent, "Oops, wrong photo. Can't unsend it now. My bad." Yeah, right. I didn't buy it for a second. Lately, Sean had been keeping to himself. He hadn't approached me in a while. It didn't take long to find out why. After returning to school, Elias was reported for fighting and intentional assault. That day, I was in the teacher's office when I overheard the conversation. When Elias saw me, he immediately denied the accusation. "I didn't start it. It was self-defense. I got hurt too." I thought for a moment, then stepped forward. "Teacher, I can confirm that I was the one who took Elias to the hospital that day." The teacher kept him behind for further questioning. I gathered my homework and left the office, only to run into Sean at the corner. I ignored him, but he blocked my path, his tone sharp and accusing. "He's that kind of person, a thug. Do you even know what kind of reputation he had back in middle school? Why are you helping him? What does that have to do with you?" Then I remembered that cold, jealous look Sean had given Elias before. "So it was you, wasn't it? Does it matter?" "Sean," I said with a bitter laugh, "you really are a petty, twisted person." He didn't even get angry. "Violet, he's not worth it." I sneered. "I don't need anyone telling me what to do." Back in class, my phone buzzed. "Elias, do you believe me?" "Me, I do." The whole issue ended with Elias reading a self-criticism aloud at the flag-raising ceremony. Later that day, he texted again. Good thing I didn't get a real punishment. That would have been trouble. I was confused, so I sent a question mark. He brushed it off with a joke, and I didn't press further. Meanwhile, Margarita's bullying of Sean continued, but Sean never fought back. Every time, he'd just look at me with those pitiful eyes, as if hoping to see even the faintest flicker of sympathy. But I pretended not to notice. I couldn't understand it. Sean had been reborn too. He knew he had talent. He could have used it to change his fate. But instead, he did nothing, as if he were deliberately trying to show me how pitiful he was, hoping to stir my protective instincts again. Too bad for him. I couldn't be bothered to look his way. Chapter 13. Because I wanted to walk the path I hadn't finished in my previous life. I immersed myself in the ocean of knowledge every single day. And Elias, under the pretext of asking me questions about studying, lingered around me constantly, making sure I couldn't ignore his presence. The first year of high school passed in the blink of an eye. I was still ranked #1 in the entire grade. God knows, if I hadn't failed the college entrance exam in my past life, I might have already been doing research. Then I wouldn't have wasted time thinking about being with Sean, or trying to earn more money to study computer science. When we were divided into new classes in the second year, a familiar face appeared. Elias. The moment he realized we'd be deskmates again, his grin nearly split his face. Just as cocky and carefree as ever, he said, sitting next to the top student, "I'm really something." Huh? The moment Sean, sitting in front, heard that, his fists tightened even more, and soon came that rainy night he once mentioned, the night he said he liked Margarita's silhouette. To avoid him, I deliberately took another route home, but we still ran into each other. He didn't have an umbrella. The rain was heavy, roaring between heaven and earth, and from across the street, our eyes met from afar. I turned away at once, ready to change directions, but he called out to me, "Violet." I couldn't be bothered to answer and quickened my steps. Still, he caught up and blocked my way. The rain poured down mercilessly. His thin shirt clung wet and cold to his frail body. Water streamed down his face nonstop, blurring even his expression. I stood silently under my umbrella, with no intention of sharing its shelter. On the crowded street, I could feel strange looks from people passing by. He ignored them all, only staring at me quietly. Suddenly, I remembered that one time I went with him to an original singer competition. That day, though he had already chosen his song, he switched to another one right before going on stage, a song he'd written about innocent first love. He even missed a few beats while singing it. When it ended, he stood under the spotlight and said the song was dedicated to a girl in the audience. But I'd forgotten, there was someone else sitting in the crowd. She had come with a friend, Margarita. How dare he bask in the glaring warmth of my affection, while handing over all his love, completely and unreservedly, to another person? Why are you avoiding me? Sean's lips trembled. His voice, strained with repressed emotion, was so soft it was almost drowned out by the rain. You'd rather help someone else than even look at me. He took a small step forward, as if wanting to get closer. Elias has everything. He doesn't need your charity. Charity? So, in his eyes, my help was nothing more than pity? I suddenly understood. Sean never really liked me. He thought my efforts to save him were nothing but idle amusement. That I was looking down on him, pitying his misfortune. That my so-called salvation and compassion were acts of self-righteous superiority. He believed the two of us were never equals. That's why he became obsessed with Margarita, a girl who toyed with him for fun, who never pitied him, who looked down on him completely. But he forgot one thing, because of my protection. Margarita had never actually hurt him before. Now, though, she had dragged him into the dirt, crushing his pride beneath her heel. Only then did he realize Margarita was nothing like the angel he imagined. And because I chose to stand aside this time, he began to see me as someone like him, someone from the same darkness. That was when I finally realized. Sean didn't deserve a hand reaching out to pull him from the shadows. What he wanted was someone just as broken as he was. Someone who could stay with him in the dark. But that person was not me. His body trembled, barely steady. His voice, faint and brittle, drifted through the rain. Why do you hate me so much? Chapter 14. Sean. I corrected him calmly. Let me make one thing clear, I never hated you. I just stopped acknowledging your existence. My love and hatred toward him had long since faded into nothingness. Now, even his words couldn't stir the slightest ripple in my heart. For a brief moment, a glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. But I crushed it myself. You were just a passerby in my life, not worth any of my emotions. Sean panicked. His expression crumbled completely. It's not supposed to be like this. He desperately searched my eyes, trying to find some trace of love left for him. Unfortunately, there was nothing. So he began to play the emotional card. You clearly loved me. You even gave up the major you wanted to study, for me. That was because something went wrong during the college entrance exam. I never finished my last essay and didn't get into the school I wanted. Life simply took another turn, and he happened to be part of that detour. Now, I didn't want to keep pretending anymore. Looking straight at him, I said slowly, "When I liked you, it wasn't for any reason. I never thought I was saving you." My love back then was passionate and fearless. My affection for him was painfully obvious. I knew, all too well, that he was starved for love. Now it seems he was just starved for sense. Hearing the word love from my mouth, pride and relief flickered in his eyes. "I knew it. You love me." I cut him off. "That was the past. Now you're nothing but a stranger to me." He froze, eyes slowly reddening. "There's nothing between me and Margarita." Remembering how he obsessively kept countless photos of her like some creep, I felt my irritation rise. "You don't need to tell me that." Sean's face darkened, disbelief seeping into his tone. "But this time, nothing happened. I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you still like this?" I sneered. He actually had the nerve to ask me why. A boyfriend of more than 10 years, no matter what excuse he had, spent his thoughts on another woman. And I, the actual girlfriend, am supposed to be grateful that he at least didn't physically cheat. When he let the whole internet laugh at me, did he ever think about the consequences? Maybe my expression was too cold, because Sean reached out his hand, trying to grab mine, his voice trembling with desperation. "I didn't mean it like that. Nothing really happened. Why can't you just look at me?" Just once, I stepped back, avoiding his touch. "Because, Sean, you don't deserve it." His hand froze midair. Then he suddenly let out a hollow laugh. "Is it because of Elias? You saved him, then I'll destroy him." He really was insane. I should have known. Last time, I was the medicine that kept his emotions stable. This time, without that medicine, his sickness had only grown worse. I stopped him cold. "Sean, before the English exam, the bottle of water you gave me, you put something in it, didn't you?" Chapter 15. The rain had already stopped. I had wondered before, my grades were always steady, and I never ate anything unusual. So why, of all times, did I suddenly have stomach cramps right before the final exam? The pain was so sharp it forced me to give up on my English essay. And because of that, I lost the chance to enter my dream university. But after what Sean just said, it struck me, maybe it hadn't been an accident at all. His face turned pale, inch by inch, as my words sank in. At last, he spoke in a voice so faint it was almost pitiful. "I just wanted you to stay with me." I stepped forward and slapped him with all my strength. "You're despicable. You're nothing but a rat hiding in the gutter." He said nothing for a long while. Then, his figure slowly vanished into the fading curtain of rain. I reached up to touch my face, cold, damp. It was the first time I had cried in so long. But not for Sean. I cried for myself, for the love I had given to the wrong person. Then, a pair of sneakers appeared before me. I looked up. Elias was standing there, holding out a tissue. Under the dim streetlight, his face was slightly blurred. I took the tissue from him. He was still holding an umbrella over my head, though the rain had stopped long ago. "Violet, do you know why I love physics?" He didn't wait for me to answer. "Because it has the magic to travel through time and space. Have you ever heard of quantum entanglement?" He smiled faintly. "Quantum entanglement isn't bound by time or distance. Two particles, completely unrelated, can still become intertwined, connected across any distance." I froze. In my previous life, I'd once read a research paper about parallel universes. At the bottom of that paper was an email address, inviting anyone interested to reach out. When I couldn't sleep because of all the pain Sean caused me, I had sent an email to that address. And soon, I got a reply. I still remembered the message. "Miss Violet, would you like to try the experiment?" That very email had brought me here. Could it be Elias was the one who sent it? I looked at him closely. He extended his hand to me. "Don't worry about why you came here. What matters is, what do you truly want?" In the vast multiverse, among countless parallel worlds, there's always one version of you who finds lifelong happiness. Suddenly, it felt as if something inside me had opened, like a veil lifting. I reached out, hesitantly. He grasped my hand and pulled me up. "Violet," he said softly, with a smile that felt like sunrise after endless rain. Go ahead, fly forward without fear. Chapter 16. After that rainy night, Sean got sick and stopped coming to school. Meanwhile, Elias's words from that night kept echoing in my mind. I began reading every article I could find about parallel universes, but none of them were ever proven, just theories and conjecture. Then, one day at the library, as I was borrowing books, I noticed something odd. Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time had a borrowing record, and according to the timestamp, I had borrowed it not long ago, but this was my first time ever touching that book. Then I saw another name written below mine, Elias. In that instant, a bold and terrifyingly clear thought formed in my head. I stood there for a long moment, stunned, before quietly sliding the book back onto the shelf. Then I did what I'd always done, buried myself in my studies again. What surprised me most, though, was that Margarita seemed to have changed completely. She even rallied the whole class to visit Sean and spend her own time taking care of him at the hospital. Sometimes, when I was exhausted from homework, I would overhear her murmuring softly to herself, "Don't die. I'll make it up to you. Forgive me." Words like those. I didn't know what had happened between them, but maybe that was for the best. Wasn't it? Sean's dream from his past life was finally coming true. The goddess he had always adored was now within reach. When he returned, he stopped seeking me out. He was still the same, silent, solitary, nearly invisible in class. But at the start of senior year, a shocking piece of news spread. Apparently, over the summer, Sean had joined a singing competition and suddenly became famous. The songs that had made him popular in his previous life, he released earlier this time. Overnight, he became a school celebrity. In one interview, he said, "I want to stand at the highest point, side by side with the person I love, to protect her dream." And Margarita drew closer and closer to him, skipping classes to attend his shows. Even TV programs, they showed up at school less and less. Yet it didn't stop people from romanticizing their story. Everyone said they were a perfect match, the talented boy and the beautiful girl. Desk partners destined by fate. I didn't care to listen. Sometimes I'd get messages from unknown numbers, a few scattered lyrics, or half-finished sentences. I deleted all of them. Still, unease crept in. It felt like Sean was preparing for something big, something dangerous. Before I could figure out what it was, Margarita came to find me. Chapter 17. Last time, I had offended Margarita by helping Sean. She had mocked and provoked me in secret. But since I had good grades, a decent family, and a backbone, she eventually dropped it. This time, though, I hadn't said a single word to her, so I couldn't figure out why she was looking for me now. "So, Sean still can't forget you?" She stared at me with a mocking smile. "But what does it matter? You were by his side." "Sure, but when he died, the only person he thought about was me." Confirmed. She remembered the previous life too, thinking I wouldn't understand her hidden meaning. She grew even bolder, her hand lifting, ready to slap me. "But I suggest you drop whatever delusions you have. My status now is far beyond your reach." I caught her wrist and threw it aside forcefully. She yelped in pain and cursed. "Violet, don't think I won't make you pay. Believe it or not, I can have someone kill you." I was taller than her, so I simply looked down and said coldly, "Stop provoking me, you bitch." She tried to lunge at me, but someone stepped in between us. It was Sean, the one who hadn't shown up for a long time. Margarita's demeanor changed instantly. She clung to his arm, all soft and pitiful. "You came for me? You didn't trust me to handle her alone?" Sean looked at her but said nothing. I didn't care to watch their little performance. I packed up my bag, ready to leave, but Margarita blocked my way again. "You're just a nerd. Don't tell me you really think you'll ace the exams this time?" I froze for a second. She went on, her voice dripping with contempt. "Stop acting like some kind-hearted saint. It's disgusting." What was wrong with her? I was just about to reply when a clear, sharp voice came from nearby. "Some people can't even get into a junior college, and they've got the nerve to bark at the top student? If your house doesn't have a mirror, try looking into a puddle." It was Elias. Chapter 18. He walked over to stand beside me, looking at the two people in front of us. He clicked his tongue twice, So it's the bottom ranks of our class. That explains it. We're simply not on the same intellectual level. Margarita raised her hand, ready to slap Elias. Normally, Elias had that careless, mischievous attitude. But in that moment, his entire presence radiated danger, the kind of aura that warned people not to mess with him. His eyes were utterly emotionless as he looked at her. Get lost. Do you really think someone like me, the young master of the Elias family, is someone you can offend? Then he stepped forward and helped me gather my books into my bag. Sean stood silently to the side, though his face looked calm. I could clearly see the veins bulging in his clenched fists. Yet, as always, he said nothing. When he pulled Margarita away, he glanced back at me. His lips moved, mouthing something soundlessly, but I couldn't care less. On the way home, Elias said, "Leave this matter to me. Don't let it affect your political screening." I nodded, then asked, "And why do you care about my political screening?" A faint flush crept up his cheeks. "I'm just reminding you not to do anything rash." But then, how did he know I was planning to apply for University A? Chapter 19. In the last few months before the college entrance exams, Sean and Margarita came back to school to study. Elias, however, treated every day like a battlefield, sticking to me like a bodyguard on duty. He was afraid something unexpected might happen again. But surprisingly, Margarita didn't try to bother me this time, especially during the last 2 days before the exam. Elias practically didn't leave my side, eating, studying, even napping nearby as if determined to guard me 24 hours a day. He even hired his family's security guards to watch over me, and he was absolutely adamant that I shouldn't eat anything handed to me by anyone else, only food I brought myself. Under his layers of protection, those tense days passed quickly. When it was finally over, I knew I would at last be able to walk the path I'd missed before. That night, we had a small class gathering. Elias quietly pulled me aside and confessed, "My family background is clean, no fights, no records, no stains for 3 generations. I study physics, so I can even help you. Would you consider me?" That was when I finally understood what he had meant by that text he'd sent after Sean reported him the first time. Still, was that really how he thought a confession should go? Seeing me lost in thought, Elias continued, "It's okay if you don't choose me. I know your heart is set on research. Don't worry, I won't hold you back. Even if you regret it later, I'll still create more opportunities for you." I looked at him seriously. "Elias, were you the one from the other timeline?" He froze. "I saw a brief history of time," I said softly. "I think there must be some kind of crossover between our 2 worlds. That's why the book I borrowed in one timeline appeared here. Because space-time isn't stable. We both carry memories from another universe, right? You said before that quantum entanglement connects people across time and distance. Maybe, in mystical terms, that's karma, cause and effect looping endlessly. That's why all 4 of us, you, me, Sean, and Margarita, remember everything. So tell me, in that other timeline, was it just that book that tied our fates together?" From his quiet confession, I learned about a love that had always been hidden. He'd first noticed me when I gave the speech as the school's top student in our freshman year. Since then, he'd started observing me, walking the same routes, learning my habits. When I joined the physics competition in sophomore year, he followed suit, borrowing the same books I read from the library. That was when he fell in love with physics too, because, to him, quantum mechanics really could connect worlds beyond time. He believed wholeheartedly that parallel universes could intersect. But back then, I was already with Sean, so he buried his feelings deep inside and focused on his research instead. Years later, during his PhD, he discovered a way to cross between worlds. And then, he received my email. That email I had sent, seeking answers, was answered by him. He was the one who led me here. But because it was an experiment, there were risks. Like now, we might remain here forever, with both sets of memories intertwined. So that day, when you were hurt and I saved you, was that intentional? Elias immediately shook his head. No, that part was real. I was reckless back in middle school. But I changed. I worked hard to get into your class. Because every event holds countless choices, and every choice leads to a different ending. This time, my ending was meeting Elias. Of course, he said, smiling faintly. My research into parallel universes wasn't completely selfless. Deep down, I just hoped that, in one of your many choices, I'd get the chance to appear. Chapter 20. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I finally said, softly, Elias, we've known each other for 3 years. But I'm not sure if I still have the ability to love someone. I'm afraid that saying yes to you might be irresponsible. The color drained from Elias's face instantly. I understand. I'm not forcing you, he murmured, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Liking someone, it's never something you can demand. He was trying his best to sound calm, to give both of us a way out. But I smiled, stepped forward, and hugged him tightly. Still, I want to try. So, boyfriend, would you like to explore another possibility with me? For a second, his whole body went stiff. Then he let out a joyful, half-sobbing shout. I will! He spun me around several times, laughing uncontrollably. Someone nearby called out for Elias to come drink. Elias grinned. How did you know Violet said yes to my confession? Huh? His classmate blinked. Then another asked, Elias, which university are you applying to? Elias beamed even wider. Same as Violet's, she's my girlfriend. What? Soon the whole class knew that Elias, the loud, dramatic one, was practically glowing with happiness, smiling so hard his eyes almost disappeared. The classroom buzzed with laughter and teasing. Only one person remained silent. Sean, the new celebrity, said nothing amid all the cheer. As laughter echoed around him, his back bent slightly lower, as if the weight of something invisible pressed him down. That night, I received a message from an unknown number. Your dream, this time. I'll protect it for you too. Chapter 21. I didn't reply, but soon enough, I understood exactly what he meant. A week later, during a fan meet and greet livestream for Sean's latest concert, he personally dragged Margarita from heaven straight into hell. At the time, Margarita thought she had become Sean's unofficial girlfriend. After all, she appeared at every one of his events, standing proudly at his side, and he had never once denied it. But when the host asked him if he had anything to say after finishing the college entrance exam, behind him, on the giant screen, video clips began to play. Evidence of Margarita bullying him. The footage was shaky, clearly taken secretly, yet from those angles, you could see it all. Sean's pale, fragile face after every humiliation, curled up, trembling, pitiful enough to shatter with a single touch. The entire venue erupted into chaos. Margarita screamed, rushing onto the stage, begging them to stop the video. No one listened. Everyone's eyes turned toward Sean, but not with anger, with pity. They didn't understand what he was doing. For a rising idol, revealing something like that was career suicide. Even as the victim, he'd likely destroy his future. But the video kept playing. At the end, a short conversation appeared, apparently recorded when Margarita was drunk, as Sean drew the truth out of her. Did you switch her water before the exam? Of course. I just couldn't stand how high and mighty she acted, trying to save everyone. Ha! Wouldn't it be fun to see her fall into the mud? The fan meet descended into chaos. Only Sean remained calm, looking straight into the camera. It was as if he was speaking directly to me. See? I could never love someone who once tormented me. Or maybe, someone who destroys another person's dream doesn't deserve to stand beside me. At last, I understood what he meant that day. I'll avenge you. And I realized why he had rushed ahead of his previous life's path. Why he had become famous so soon. He had been preparing for this all along. A grand, deliberate act of revenge. He wanted to stand beside me in the light, openly, proudly, and love me with a heart that was finally clean. Chapter 22. Margarita ended up in prison. I went to see her. When she saw it was me, she forced a pale smile. Are you proud? Last time he abandoned you for me, this time, you won. I shook my head. In love, whoever takes it seriously first loses. None of us are winners. She stared, then asked, bewildered, where did it all go wrong? Didn't he almost kill himself for me? Why would he do this to me? That was a hard question to answer. She laughed bitterly. So all the ways I got close to him were just to help you get revenge. But that bottle of water, he gave it to you himself. He had his own selfish reasons. 2. He wanted someone with him in hell. How can you pin it all on me? He never loved me. He only thought we were the same kind of broken people. So he made others believe he loved me because he was too afraid to let you see his dark side. In the end, I was the big fool, the one who'd been wronged. When I first came, I felt furious at both of them, 2 people living in darkness who ganged up on me and forced me to give up my dream. I wanted nothing more than to tear them to pieces. But quantum mechanics says we're just slices trapped in time. There are countless versions of us facing different endings. Before I left, I told Margarita, "You're not innocent either. You only thought you were about to ride him to success. How much of your feelings for him was real?" Margarita pressed her lips together and said nothing. See, that's the price of greed. Chapter 23. When I walked out, Sean was waiting for me at the door. "I've shown you all my dirty secrets. Do I still have a chance?" he asked. I shook my head. He carefully produced a bouquet of calla lilies from behind his back. The flower's meaning is pure love. It was the kind of flowers he used to give me when we first had money. I didn't take them. His lips trembled. I was wrong. Is there not even a chance for me to make amends? Since fate gave us this second chance, it's to fix the things we couldn't face before. I interrupted, glancing toward Elias, who had just arrived behind him. I said quietly, "You're mistaken. It wasn't fate that brought us back. Some people spend a lifetime researching, pouring every ounce of energy into one purpose, so that my life might have one more choice." He asked for nothing in return. He guarded me quietly, understood my dream, and protected it. That felt like a normal relationship. I passed by Sean and took Elias's hand. Looking at him, I said, "The love I once gave you was whole and without reservation. I'm glad we didn't get entangled this time. Only then can my love be given, without reserve, to someone else. And in his world, the moon will never rise. The darkness will swallow every light." He stayed where he was, like a lost child. Chapter 24. I got into the university I had always dreamed of, studying the major I loved most. Then I kept going deeper into academics, spending almost every day buried in the lab, working on confidential research projects. I was even busier than Elias, who was already very busy himself. Every time I turned on my phone, there were his messages waiting for me. "Pay attention to me, honey. Talk to me, honey. My love. I'm on vacation now. I'm coming to see you, okay?" I replied, "Go talk to my supervisor instead. Please. Honey, look at me. Don't stare at those cold machines all day." Then a video popped up. I had barely connected when I almost spat out the water I was drinking. "Put some clothes on. My colleagues are still here. I don't care if you don't look at me enough. What if you fall for someone else? Don't worry. None of them have as much hair as you. Elias, are they handsome? Not as handsome as you. Do they have abs? No. Humph. How do you know? Have you seen them? Great. Here he goes again with his nonsense. Well, I chose this boyfriend myself. Guess I'll have to coax him myself too." Chapter 25. The next time I heard about Sean, it was news that he had committed suicide again. I hadn't been able to stop him from becoming a singer, but I had long stopped following any updates about him. I only learned about it because Elias sent me a screenshot. My name was trending together with his on the hot search. Before I could even read it carefully, someone was already throwing a fit. Doesn't he have his own wife? Why is he coveting my wife? Is he insane? On the screen was his new song Regret, along with the news of his suicide. It chronicled the 10 years of his secret crush on me, starting from his high school diary. After reading it, I felt strangely calm, even absurdly so. In our previous life, he had died in a fit of obsession and despair over failing to have Margarita. In this life, he couldn't have me, so he staged the same pathetic drama again, as if trying to make himself look like some deep, tragic lover. But to his disappointment, my work is confidential by nature. So my name, which appeared briefly online, was swiftly erased without a trace. He thought his love would be displayed to the world as a grand, everlasting devotion, He thought that his immense regret in this new life would move the public to give us a happy ending. But he was wrong. He was never worthy of being mentioned after my name. Yet one afternoon, I received a package. I didn't expect Sean to ever send me anything again. Inside was a letter. To my wife, Violet. By the time you read this, you must already know what happened. I never meant to use death to hold you hostage. I just loved you too much. Without you, there's nothing left in this world worth living for. I was born alone, never knowing what love was. When I was at my lowest, you appeared like a beam of light, scattering the darkness around me. You stayed by my side without hesitation. But you were kind to everyone, so I thought your kindness toward me was just a gesture of pity. A small mercy for my misfortune. You were too good, so good that I felt unworthy of you. So good that I wanted to cage you, to keep you bound to me. So good that I thought if I loved someone broken like Margarita, someone trapped in the same hell as me, then maybe I'd be normal. I've had so many dark thoughts. I wanted to possess you. For a moment, I even thought of turning you into a specimen that would lie quietly there, belonging only to me. I never dared to tell you. These thoughts tormented me for too long, until I couldn't hold on anymore. I didn't dare leave you a message. I knew you'd hate me. People like me don't deserve to be loved by anyone. I thought I loved Margarita, but when I came back, I realized that the only person I ever truly wanted to see was you. I hurt you. I'm sorry. But selfishly, I think, if this way, you can remember me, then maybe it's not so bad. I'm such a wretched person. Only when I was beside you could I catch even a glimpse of heaven's light. Without you, I have no reason to go on living. I read Elias's thesis. I'm grateful for the parallel worlds, at least in another timeline. I once had you. So, in our final meeting, I didn't say goodbye, because I knew we'd never meet again. Inside the box was also the broken strawberry hair clip from long ago. And a video. In the quiet expanse of the sky, everything shimmered in ghostly green. Under the vast aurora, he choked back sobs again and again. Violet, I love you. It took losing you to finally understand. At last, he collapsed to the ground, covering his eyes with both hands, tears still streaming through his fingers. His fragmented voice echoed softly in the still air. I don't deserve your forgiveness. If there's another parallel world, would you look at me again? Just once, please. Chapter 26. I didn't finish watching the video. I turned it off, writing all that didn't wash away his sins. No matter what his reasons were for liking Margarita, one fact remained: he was interested in her. And that was the very beginning of all his so-called love. So, I didn't believe a single word of his nonsense. Time lost can't be recovered. The wounds he caused are already there. They'll turn into scars, forever reminding me never to make the same mistake again. I received his confession, but that doesn't mean I forgive him, because in that other timeline, I had given him my heart completely, and the one who pushed me away with his own hands has no right to speak of regret. After Elias finished reading, he asked me how I felt about it. I thought for a moment and said just one word: pretentious. Then I wrapped my arms around his waist. I know who truly matters to me. After all, this is a love that transcends time and space. A love that shines with unmistakable devotion. A love that stands by my side unconditionally. A love that, in this lifetime, belongs only to me. Elias took out a bouquet of white bellflowers from behind him. Their meaning, eternal love. He said, the person I love still loves me, even in another parallel world. I was more conventional. I brought red roses. People who share the same frequency will always meet again, and that's the most romantic kind of reunion. Elias kissed my forehead. I love you. In the entanglement of quantum fate, some journeys are destined to happen.